Oh, g'day, VC, JC, the Jazz Warlock here from deep down south, Hobart, Tasmania. Noticed on the VC of late on a number of channels, Mazzy, Vinyl Richie, two of the stalwarts and legends of the vinyl community. There's been a bit of chat about the great Yoko Ono and her output, and whilst I absolutely 100% respect the great Yoko Ono and think of her as a great artist, in terms of the criteria, let's say, wife of a visionary who was actually before and after the death of said husband, was a true artist and visionary in their own rights. Yoko Ono, in my opinion, is street smiles behind the leader of that criteria, and that is Mrs. Alice Coltrane. Alice Coltrane, of course, came to prominence as part of the John Coltrane Quartet, taking over from McCoy Tyner. Can be heard on such raucous examples of free and experimental jazz like Live at the Village Vanguard Again, the album that she did with her husband, John Coltrane. But there's one album in particular that's grabbed me as a jazz and music fan. It's took hold of me as soon as the first time I heard it. From the first song, it transformed me to a newfound appreciation of jazz at the time. I thought at the time it was the greatest piece of work jazz I had heard, and it still is on high rotation on a weekly basis on Under the Needle. We of course are listening to and talking about one of my true favourite albums of all time, Alice Coltrane, Journey into Such Dadanada. And forgive me if I have not pronounced that right. Featuring the great Pharoah Sanders on soprano saxophone. Alice Coltrane by this stage had made a couple of really great albums as a solo artist, but this one reinforced her and cemented her place in history as one of the great true artists, not only of jazz, but of the history of modern music. The history of music, let's just say it. This is a record to behold, and one that every single person should at least sample before they meet their maker. So Alice on it plays mainly the harp. I'm not talking blues harp here, I'm talking the great stringed instrument, and wow, what an impact it makes in jazz. I'm not sure if you can hear behind me, but this is a mystical, spiritual, slow burn of a jazz ride, and I wouldn't ask for anything more. It is really quite inspiring. I'm not sure if you can hear the bass riff that plays in this first song, the title track. Just follows on a loop, probably the most deep and beautiful bass riff I have ever heard, by Cecil McBee, who's known for his playing in some of the great free and experimental jazz of the 60s and 70s. This was recorded in the mid-70s, I think, or early 70s. It features a lot of sort of Middle Eastern vibe or Eastern sort of sounding, so East meets West and comes together for just one piece of absolute sensational, spiritual, uplifting music. I'm so glad I have this album in my collection. It is an amazing package, this being a reissue by Coltrane Records, originally released on Impulse. Pick this up cheap at most retailers, gatefold, photos, information. Pharoah Sanders is just a great player, and I urge you to check out, say, Kama Sutra or some other of his works. A real leader in the free jazz. But this is restrained enough that it's highly listenable, but has that flair of experimentation. Alice Coltrane, I salute you. You are a true artist. This is the Jazz Warlock. Hobart, Tasmania. I'm out.